Imagine standing alone on a beach late at night. The waves are calm, the wind is gentle, everything seems peaceful. Then, without warning, a scream breaks the silence. Something has appeared beneath the water. Something large, something powerful, something that has been hunting these oceans for hundreds of millions of years. For centuries, sailors have told stories about giant shadows moving beneath their ships. Entire crews spoke of enormous jaws rising from the depths. Many people dismissed those stories as myths, but history tells a different story. In 1916, a series of terrifying shark attacks changed the world forever. Those attacks inspired one of the most famous films ever made, a film that transformed sharks into the most feared creatures in the ocean. But how much of that fear is based on reality? How long have sharks ruled the seas? Did ancient monsters such as the megalodon truly disappear? And what secrets are still hidden in the darkness below? Tonight, we are going to uncover the greatest shark attacks in history, because sometimes reality is far more frightening than fiction. Long before human beings built cities, discovered fire, or created the first civilizations, another ruler already dominated the earth. It did not walk on land. It did not build kingdoms. It did not need weapons. Its home was the ocean. And for hundreds of millions of years, it remained one of the most efficient predators ever to exist: the shark. Scientists believe that the ancestors of modern sharks appeared more than 450 million years ago. To understand how ancient that is, we must travel back to a world that would be completely unrecognizable to us. The continents looked different. The climate was different. Even life itself was different. No birds filled the sky. No mammals walked across the land. The oceans were the center of life. This was a brutal world in which only the strongest creatures could survive. And yet, while countless species appeared and disappeared, sharks endured. They survived volcanic eruptions powerful enough to transform the planet. They survived dramatic climate changes. They survived asteroid impacts. Entire species vanished forever, but sharks continued to swim through the oceans as if nothing had happened. How was that possible? The answer lies in evolution. Unlike many creatures, sharks adapted continuously to the changing world around them. Their bodies became faster, their senses became sharper, their hunting skills became more precise. Over millions of years, nature transformed them into perfect predators. Some species learned to detect tiny electrical signals produced by other animals. Others developed extraordinary senses of smell. Many could detect movement from great distances. Their skeletons, made mostly of cartilage instead of bone, allowed them to move through the water with remarkable speed and agility. Every part of their bodies had a purpose. Every movement was designed for survival, but evolution had even greater plans. Soon, gigantic predators would emerge from the depths of the sea, creatures so enormous that they would later become the source of myths, legends, and nightmares. And among them, one name would stand above all others: the megalodon. Long before human beings appeared on Earth, long before the first trees covered the land, and even before the dinosaurs ruled the planet, another group of creatures was already thriving beneath the waves. These creatures were the ancestors of modern sharks. Scientists estimate that sharks first appeared more than 450 million years ago during the Ordovician period. At that time, Earth looked nothing like the world we know today. Most living organisms were small and simple. Life existed almost entirely beneath the surface of the oceans. The continents were barren, and enormous seas covered vast regions of the planet. It was in this strange and hostile environment that the earliest sharks began their extraordinary journey. Unlike many other animals, sharks possessed a unique advantage. Their skeletons were not made of bone. Instead, they were composed of cartilage, a flexible material that allowed them to move quickly and efficiently through the water. This remarkable adaptation gave them greater speed, agility, and endurance. As millions of years passed, sharks continued to evolve. Some species developed larger bodies, others became faster hunters. Their senses grew sharper, allowing them to detect movement, smell blood from great distances, and even sense the electrical signals produced by other living creatures. Slowly, sharks transformed into some of the most effective predators the world had ever seen. Then, about 400 million years ago, an age that scientists often call the Golden Age of Sharks began. Hundreds of different species appeared in the oceans. Some were small enough to fit into the palm of a human hand. Others grew into gigantic hunters capable of dominating entire ecosystems. Over the course of their long history, sharks witnessed the rise and fall of countless species. They survived devastating volcanic eruptions. They endured dramatic climate changes. They even outlived the dinosaurs. Few creatures in Earth's history have demonstrated such extraordinary resilience. Yet, despite everything scientists have discovered, many mysteries remain unanswered. And perhaps the greatest mystery of all is how these ancient rulers of the ocean continue to thrive after hundreds of millions of years. Millions of years passed, and the oceans continued to change. Entire continents drifted across the surface of the Earth. Volcanoes erupted, sea levels rose and fell, countless species appeared, flourished, and vanished forever. But sharks remained. In fact, they were becoming stronger than ever before. Scientists call this period the Golden Age of Sharks. During this extraordinary era, which began roughly 400 million years ago, the oceans became home to hundreds of shark species, unlike anything we know today. Some were small and swift hunters that fed on fish and shellfish. Others evolved into enormous predators capable of dominating vast areas of the ocean. The underwater world had become a battlefield. Every creature was engaged in a constant struggle for survival, and sharks stood at the very center of that struggle. The rise of incredible hunters' nature was conducting one of the greatest experiments in Earth's history. Different shark species began to evolve in completely different directions. Some developed long, pointed snouts. Others evolved massive jaws. Some possessed sharp teeth designed for tearing flesh, while others developed flat teeth capable of crushing hard shells. Each new adaptation increased their chances of survival. Little by little, sharks spread across the oceans. Their senses became more sophisticated. Their bodies became more efficient. Their hunting techniques became more precise. Millions of years of evolution transformed them into living masterpieces. But the oceans were still changing, and those changes would give birth to some of the strangest creatures that had ever existed. Monsters from another world. Among these ancient predators was a creature known as Stethecanthus. Unlike modern sharks, this extraordinary animal possessed a strange, flat structure on its back that resembled an anvil. Scientists still debate the exact purpose of this unusual feature. Some believe it was used to attract mates. Others think it may have served as a defensive mechanism against larger predators. Then there was Helicoprion, one of the most mysterious animals ever discovered. At first glance, it appeared to be an ordinary shark, but hidden inside its mouth was something truly astonishing. Its teeth grew in a spiral formation that resembled a circular saw. For decades, scientists struggled to understand how this bizarre structure functioned. Some believed the spiral protruded from the creature's jaw. Others thought it extended from its nose. Only modern technology finally revealed the truth. The spiral was hidden inside the lower jaw, where it acted like an incredibly effective cutting tool. Even today, Helicoprion remains one of the strangest animals ever to inhabit the oceans. The world before the dinosaurs. When people think of ancient Earth, they often imagine giant dinosaurs walking across endless landscapes. But sharks had already ruled the oceans long before the first dinosaur ever took a step. They witnessed entire worlds rise and disappear. They survived 5 mass extinctions again and again, life on Earth came close to total destruction, and each time, sharks found a way to endure. Perhaps their secret was simple. They adapted. While other creatures became too specialized, sharks remained flexible. They changed when the world changed, and that ability made them nearly unstoppable. The greatest challenge. Then, approximately 252 million years ago, disaster struck. The planet experienced the largest mass extinction in its history. Gigantic volcanic eruptions transformed the atmosphere. The oceans became warmer. Oxygen levels dropped dramatically. Countless species vanished forever. Scientists estimate that almost 90% of all marine life disappeared. Entire ecosystems collapsed. For many creatures, it was the end, but not for sharks. Against all odds, they survived once again. And soon, a new era would begin. An era filled with giants. An era that would eventually give birth to one of the most terrifying predators that has ever existed, the megalodon. For millions of years, sharks ruled the oceans. But nature was not finished. Evolution was preparing something far greater, something stronger, something larger, a predator so powerful that its name would survive for millions of years. The megalodon. Even today, the very mention of its name awakens a sense of fear and fascination. But what exactly was this creature? How large was it? And could something so enormous truly have existed? Scientists believe that the megalodon first appeared approximately 23 million years ago. Unlike many ancient predators, the megalodon did not simply survive. It dominated. Its territory stretched across vast regions of the world's oceans. Wherever warm waters existed, the giant hunter was never far away. Unlike modern sharks, the megalodon lived in a world filled with enormous prey. Ancient whales traveled through the oceans. Large marine mammals flourished. Sea turtles crossed the open seas. For the megalodon, the ocean was an endless hunting ground, a giant unlike anything the world had ever seen. Estimating the exact size of the megalodon is not easy. Cartilage rarely survives for millions of years, which means that scientists have had to rely primarily on fossilized teeth and fragments of vertebrae. What they discovered was astonishing. Some estimates suggest that the creature reached lengths of more than 60 feet. Others believe that certain individuals may have been even larger. Its jaws alone measured nearly 2 meters across. Its bite force was one of the most powerful ever recorded in the history of life on Earth. Its teeth, some measuring more than 7 inches long, were designed to tear through flesh and crush bone. Unlike modern sharks, which often target smaller prey, the megalodon specialized in hunting giants. Ancient whales were among its favorite targets. Researchers have discovered fossilized whale bones covered with enormous bite marks. These scars provide clear evidence of the megalodon's extraordinary strength. The perfect killing machine. Everything about the megalodon was designed for survival. Its massive body allowed it to travel great distances. Its senses enabled it to detect prey from far away. Its speed allowed it to launch devastating attacks. Scientists believe that the megalodon often attacked from below. Using the darkness of the deep ocean as cover, it would rise rapidly toward the surface and strike with incredible force. Many of its victims never had an opportunity to escape. For millions of years, the megalodon remained the undisputed king of the oceans. Nothing challenged its authority. Nothing stood in its way. But even kings eventually fall. And soon, the world itself would begin to change. For millions of years, the megalodon had ruled the oceans without fear. Its enormous body allowed it to dominate vast territories. Its immense strength made it the perfect hunter. Its bite was powerful enough to crush the bones of large whales. It seemed invincible. But nature follows only one rule: nothing lasts forever. Slowly, the world began to change. The oceans became colder. Powerful currents altered the climate of the planet. Entire ecosystems were transformed. Regions that had once been warm and rich in food became hostile environments. the giant predator faced a challenge unlike any it had ever known: a changing world. The megalodon depended upon warm waters. Its enormous body required vast amounts of food. Every day it needed to consume tremendous quantities of energy simply to survive. But as temperatures dropped, the populations of marine mammals began to change. Some species migrated to colder regions. Others disappeared completely. The giant hunter suddenly found itself in a world that no longer resembled the one in which it had evolved. Scientists believed that this was the beginning of the end, the arrival of new rivals. At the same time, new predators appeared. Among them were the ancestors of modern killer whales. Unlike the megalodon, these animals hunted in groups. They were smaller, faster, and far more adaptable. While the giant shark relied mainly on its incredible size, these new predators depended on intelligence, communication, and cooperation. Together they became formidable hunters. The balance of power within the oceans slowly began to change. Little by little, the king was losing control of its kingdom. The last days of the ruler of the seas. No one knows exactly what the final years of the megalodon looked like. Perhaps the last survivors searched desperately for food. Perhaps they migrated across enormous distances in search of warmer waters. Perhaps entire populations disappeared one after another until only a few individuals remained. Eventually, silence filled the oceans. The ruler of the seas was gone. Its reign, which had lasted millions of years, had finally come to an end. Or so we believe. The legend lives on. Even today, countless people refuse to accept that the megalodon disappeared forever. Stories continue to emerge from every corner of the world. Sailors describe enormous shadows moving beneath their ships. Fishermen speak of gigantic teeth unlike anything they have ever seen. Photographs appear on the internet, claiming to reveal the existence of an unknown monster hidden in the depths of the ocean. Scientists remain skeptical. There is no evidence proving that the megalodon still exists. Yet the legend continues to grow, and perhaps that is not surprising. After all, the ocean still hides countless mysteries, and whenever human beings encounter the unknown, they create stories. Some become myths, some become legends, and some become nightmares. Long before satellites, submarines, and scientific expeditions, the ocean was a place of endless mystery. People knew almost nothing about the world beneath the waves. Sailors crossed enormous distances guided only by the stars, the wind, and their instincts. Every journey was dangerous. Every storm could become their last. And somewhere beneath the dark waters, enormous shadows moved silently through the depths. Naturally, people began to tell stories. At first, these stories were simple warnings. But as generations passed, the stories grew larger, darker, and far more terrifying. Soon, legends of gigantic sea monsters spread throughout the world. The sea serpents of ancient Greece. The ancient Greeks believed that powerful creatures lived deep beneath the sea. One of the most famous was Scylla, a terrifying monster described as having multiple heads and countless sharp teeth. According to the legends, Scylla waited near narrow passages, attacking ships that ventured too close to her territory. Many sailors believed that enormous whirlpools, hidden rocks, and violent storms were the work of such creatures. Without modern science, almost every unexplained event became evidence of monsters lurking in the darkness. The terrifying Kraken far to the north, Scandinavian sailors told stories of another terrifying creature. They called it the Kraken. According to legend, this enormous monster possessed gigantic tentacles capable of wrapping themselves around entire ships. The Kraken would suddenly emerge from the depths, pull sailors into the water, and drag entire vessels into the darkness below. For centuries, people believed these stories. Today, scientists suspect that some of these accounts may have been inspired by encounters with giant squids. However, no one can know for certain. Fear often transforms ordinary events into extraordinary legends. monsters at the edge of the world. Ancient maps often contained a strange warning. At the edges of the known world, cartographers sometimes drew enormous sea creatures. These illustrations served a simple purpose. They reminded sailors that danger could be waiting anywhere. The message was clear. Beyond this point, the unknown begins. And human beings have always feared the unknown. The shadows beneath the waves. Even now, strange stories continue to emerge from the oceans. Sailors describe enormous creatures moving beneath their ships. Divers speak of mysterious sounds echoing through the darkness. Fishermen report seeing gigantic shadows that disappear within seconds. Scientists often explain these encounters as optical illusions, unusual ocean currents, or encounters with known animals. But the ocean remains vast. Much of it has never been explored, and that leaves us with an unsettling question. What if some legends were inspired by real creatures that no longer exist, or perhaps by creatures that still remain hidden in the darkness? Throughout history, thousands of people have entered the ocean believing that they were completely safe. Most returned to shore without incident. Some never came back. Although shark attacks are extremely rare, a few of them became so famous that they changed the way humanity viewed the sea forever. Their stories spread across continents. Newspapers wrote about them, scientists investigated them, and ordinary people began to see the ocean in a completely different way. The attack that shocked the world. One of the earliest and most terrifying cases occurred in 1916 along the coast of New Jersey. At first, nobody believed that a shark could attack so close to the shore. The water was calm, the beaches were crowded, children were playing in the sand, families were enjoying the warm summer weather. Everything seemed perfectly normal. Then everything changed. A young man named Charles Van Sant entered the water. Moments later, people heard a terrible scream. By the time rescuers reached him, it was already too late. Panic spread rapidly throughout the region, but nobody realized that this was only the beginning, a wave of fear. Several days later, another attack took place. This time, the victim was Charles Bruder. Witnesses watched helplessly from the shore as the enormous predator disappeared into the water. News of the attacks spread throughout the country. People demanded answers. Some blamed sea currents. Others believed that an unknown monster had appeared near the coast. Soon, fear replaced curiosity. The beaches became empty. Fishermen began hunting the creature. Newspapers published frightening headlines every day. The entire country was waiting for the next attack. Matawan Creek. Then something completely unexpected happened. The attacks moved far away from the ocean itself. In a small area known as Matawan Creek, people believed they were safe. The water was shallow, the ocean was miles away. No one imagined that danger could reach such a place. But they were wrong. An 11-year-old boy named Lester Stillwell disappeared beneath the surface. Soon afterward, Stanley Fisher entered the water to rescue him. He never returned safely to shore. The entire nation was horrified. The attacks became one of the greatest mysteries in American history. A new era of fear. The events of 1916 transformed public opinion forever. From that moment onward, sharks were no longer viewed simply as animals. They became symbols of danger, symbols of fear, symbols of the unknown. And decades later, these terrible events would inspire one of the most famous films ever created. A film that would forever change humanity's relationship with the ocean, Jaws. The summer of 1916 was unlike any other. The sun shone brightly over the beaches of New Jersey. Children played near the water. Families gathered along the shore. The ocean appeared calm, beautiful, and peaceful. No one knew that history was about to change forever. At that time, scientists knew very little about sharks. Most people believed that these creatures lived far from the coast and rarely approached humans. The idea that a shark might attack someone near the shore seemed almost impossible. Then, on July 1st, everything changed. The first victim, Charles Van Sant, was 25 years old. Like thousands of other visitors, he had come to the coast to enjoy the warm summer weather. As evening approached, he walked into the water. The waves were gentle, the sky was clear, nothing seemed unusual. Suddenly, a terrible scream echoed across the beach. A powerful force had emerged from beneath the surface. Witnesses rushed toward the water. Panic spread immediately. When they finally managed to bring the young man back to shore, everyone understood that something extraordinary had happened. News of the attack quickly spread throughout the region. People were shocked. Many refused to believe that a shark was responsible. But only a few days later, another tragedy occurred. Fear begins to spread. On July 6th, Charles Bruder entered the ocean. He had no reason to feel afraid. The weather was perfect, the water was calm, the beaches were crowded with tourists. Then the unimaginable happened. The attack was so violent that people standing on the shore could hardly believe what they were seeing. Newspapers immediately reported the incident. Panic spread from one town to another. Authorities warned people to remain cautious. Fishermen began searching for the mysterious predator, but the attacks did not stop. A nightmare moves inland. Then events took an even stranger turn. Several attacks occurred in Matawan Creek, a small body of water located many miles away from the open ocean. People believed that sharks could never reach such a place. They were wrong. An 11-year-old boy named Lester Stillwell disappeared beneath the surface. The community was horrified. Moments later, Stanley Fisher entered the water in an attempt to save the child. He was attacked as well. The entire country was overwhelmed by fear. No one understood how such events could happen. No one knew where the predator would strike next. And no one knew that these terrifying events would continue to influence popular culture for more than a century. Because decades later, these attacks would inspire one of the most famous films in history. By the middle of July 1916, fear had spread across the United States. People no longer saw the ocean as a place of peace and beauty. Instead, they saw danger. Every wave seemed suspicious. Every shadow beneath the surface became a possible threat. Newspapers competed to publish the most shocking headlines. Scientists argued with one another. Fishermen prepared their boats and searched the coastline day and night. The entire nation wanted answers, but answers were difficult to find. At that time, very little was known about shark behavior. Some experts insisted that sharks never attacked humans intentionally. Others believed that a giant predator was hunting along the coast. Rumors spread rapidly. People described an enormous creature moving silently through the water. Some believed there was only one shark. Others thought that several predators were involved. As fear grew, the line between fact and fiction slowly began to disappear. The birth of a legend. Almost 60 years later, an American writer named Peter Benchley became fascinated by the events of 1916. He carefully studied newspaper reports, eyewitness accounts, and scientific investigations. Little by little, he began creating a story. But he wanted something larger than reality. He wanted a creature that represented humanity's deepest fears. He wanted a monster hidden beneath the waves. Eventually, his novel Jaws was published. The book became an enormous success. Millions of readers were captivated by the terrifying story of a gigantic shark attacking a small coastal community. Soon afterward, Hollywood took notice. A young director named Steven Spielberg decided to transform the novel into a film. Neither he nor anyone else could have imagined what would happen next. A film that changed the world. When Jaws was released in 1975, everything changed. Audiences around the world were terrified. For many people, swimming in the ocean no longer felt the same. Children were afraid to enter the water. Tourists looked nervously beneath the waves. Even experienced sailors felt uneasy. The film became one of the greatest successes in the history of cinema. But something else happened as well. Sharks themselves became the villains of the story. The image of the bloodthirsty shark spread throughout popular culture. For decades, millions of people believed that sharks hunted human beings relentlessly. Scientists, however, knew that reality was far more complicated. Most shark species pose very little danger to humans, yet fear is a powerful force, and sometimes stories can become stronger than the truth. Why are we still afraid? Perhaps the answer is simpler than we think. Human beings have always feared the unknown. We fear darkness because we cannot see what hides within it. We fear silence because we do not know what it conceals. And nowhere is that fear stronger than in the ocean. Beneath the surface lies a world that remains largely unexplored, a world of shadows, a world of mysteries, a world that continues to challenge our imagination. And perhaps that is why the legend of Jaws still lives on today. For centuries, people have called it the perfect predator. Its name alone is enough to create feelings of fear, curiosity, and fascination. The great white shark. No other creature has inspired as many legends, films, books, and terrifying stories. Yet the real animal is even more extraordinary than the myths. A hunter built by evolution. The great white shark is one of the most successful predators ever to inhabit the oceans. Every part of its body has been shaped by millions of years of evolution. Its powerful muscles allow it to move through the water with astonishing speed. Its streamlined body reduces resistance as it swims. Its tail generates enormous force, enabling it to launch itself toward its prey with incredible precision. But its greatest weapon is neither its strength nor its speed. It is its senses. The great white shark possesses an extraordinary ability to detect movement, vibrations, scents, and even tiny electrical signals produced by living creatures. In complete darkness, these abilities become invaluable. Long before the prey realizes that danger is approaching, the hunter has already detected its presence. The famous attack from below. One of the great white shark's most effective hunting strategies is the surprise attack. The shark remains hidden in the darkness beneath its target. Then, at exactly the right moment, it accelerates upward with tremendous force. The attack lasts only a few seconds. Water explodes into the air. The surface of the ocean becomes a battlefield. And then silence returns. This strategy has been perfected over millions of years. Efficiency is the secret of survival. The ruler of the modern ocean today, great white sharks can be found in many parts of the world. They travel enormous distances every year, crossing entire oceans in search of food. Scientists have discovered that some individuals migrate thousands of miles between feeding grounds, yet many mysteries remain unsolved. Researchers still do not fully understand how these remarkable animals navigate such immense distances with extraordinary precision. Some experts believe that sharks may use Earth's magnetic field as a natural compass. Others suggest that they rely upon water temperature, ocean currents, and chemical signals. The truth remains uncertain. The creature behind the legend. Because of films and sensational stories, many people believe that great white sharks constantly hunt human beings. But this is not true. Most encounters between sharks and humans end without injury. In reality, human beings represent only a tiny part of the shark's world. For the shark, we are strangers entering its environment. And perhaps that is what makes these encounters so terrifying. When two worlds collide, neither side truly understands the other. That misunderstanding has created one of the most powerful legends in human history, and the story is far from over. And so our journey comes to an end. Together we have traveled through hundreds of millions of years of history. We have witnessed the rise of the first sharks. We have explored the age of gigantic predators. We have followed the terrifying story of the megalodon. We have uncovered the legends of sea monsters, the mysterious events of 1916, and the terrifying attacks that inspired one of the most famous films ever created. But perhaps the most fascinating discovery is not the story of the sharks themselves. Perhaps it is the story of humanity. For thousands of years, we have looked toward the horizon and wondered what might be hiding beneath the waves. We have transformed shadows into monsters. We have turned fear into legends, and we have filled the darkness with the creatures of our imagination. Yet one fact remains unchanged. The ocean still covers most of our planet. Thousands of species remain undiscovered. Entire ecosystems continue to exist far beyond the reach of human eyes. Even today, scientists continue to explore regions that no person has ever seen before. Perhaps the next great discovery is waiting somewhere in the darkness. Perhaps the next legendary creature has already been there for millions of years. Or perhaps the greatest mystery is not what lives in the depths of the ocean, but why we have always been so afraid of them. Because sometimes the most terrifying thing is not what we know. It is what we do not know. And somewhere beneath the endless waves, the darkness still remains. Until next time.